Leos, are you ready for this October energy that is coming on in? Let's have an aligned astro chat about it. Shalom all, Stacy the Black Feather Intuitive, and welcome to your Transformational Tarot for the month of October. And Leos, I am telling you right now, this energy is really going to be a lot of up and down. Be prepared to tread some water, be prepared to go a little bit under, be prepared to be able to dive a little bit lower, a little bit higher, because it's really kicking. And we are going to be pulling an overarching theme for you from the Sweet Ass Affirmations from Rage Create. And then the deck that was calling to me for you guys is the Slavic Legends Tarot by Taroteka. So without further ado, let's get to it. All righty. So let's get that overarching theme for you guys this month. Oh, that's the one that feels like it's standing out. By giving thanks, I initiate abundance. Through generosity, I spread it around. Okay, so I really feel like this month, this is going to be like your saving grace. This is the thing that keeps you sane. This is the thing that keeps you grounded. This is the thing that reminds you of, I want to say, the joys of being alive. And I really feel drawn to the frog in particular. Frogs are really representative of the throat chakra, speaking our truth, speaking in loving ways and in loving tones. And it's also about cleansing out our energy, making sure that our energy levels are where they are supposed to be. And I want to say it's that gratitude that is the secret sauce in a lot of ways to what it is that we manifest. When we are in gratitude, things flow to us a lot more easily. And so I feel like this is, in fact, your secret sauce for the month. By giving thanks, I initiate abundance. Through generosity, I spread it around. When you do this, all is right with your world. Oh, I love that. Okay, so let's get started with our card pull here. We have where you are at in the present moment in your transformational journey. What part of you is shifting, rising, or dissolving? Interesting. 3 of Swords. This came up last month too, for a couple of signs. So I feel like there's maybe an energy of this that's coming around, and I feel like you are processing and working through some really challenging feelings and emotions. I feel like September brought out a lot of past things that maybe you weren't anticipating bubbling to the surface, things that really showed up because it's time for you to release them. It's time for you to face them head on and to, either like make the change that it wants to make or say, I've moved on and I'm closing the door in this chapter. 3 of Swords energy also very much is about that self-care and self-healing. And I feel like the current moment that you're in and that you're finding yourself in right now is in that you're just at a place where you've had enough. You're tired of, I want to say, like always doing the deep dive. And as a result of being tired of always doing the deep dive, there's a part of you that is really struggling to not shut down, struggling to not close that heart space, struggling to be open and honest and heartfelt and vulnerable without feeling like you've got to batten down the hatches or you need to protect yourself. And so I feel that there's a real shifting that's happening here in October that is going to be connected to who in your circle of support can you really lean on? Who can you count on at this time? Who is purporting your self-care and not sticking the sword in even deeper? And I feel like we all play our part. You definitely want to, own where you're at in all of this. You want to own your choices. But I feel like that's part of it is you have owned where you're at to the best of your ability, and yet the issue keeps coming up. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, either I do something different in order to move the line to move forward, or I simply close the door on it and I just refuse to engage in it in any way, shape, or form. Of course, we all have choice, and only you know where you're at and what is going to be the best course of action for you in that regard. But I'm definitely feeling like that's exactly where you're at. Right now, you're saying, I don't want to be feeling these things anymore. I choose the healing. I choose to no longer beat myself up over this situation or this circumstance. Either the person's going to forgive me or they're not. Either I'm going to forgive the person or I'm not, or I'm removing myself from the place that keeps wounding me. I'm making that choice, or I'm choosing to stay. And either way, I'm committing to this path. I'm creating a new direction based on what this choice is. And we talk about that, the giving thanks, the abundance, the generosity. I feel like this is basically what you're doing is you're creating room to say, all right, I'm grateful for what I have right now, and I'm going to be grateful for what is coming moving forward, because at least I'm moving forward. And that's going to be better than staying in this wounded space. Interesting. This is the catalyst for you this month. What's fueling or hindering this transformation? And is this resistance or rocket fuel? Yeah, the Star. What a beautiful card to get. So this is definitely your rocket fuel. And I feel like this speaks to the relationship stuff that I'm tapping into, whether it's relationship with self, relationship with others, relationship with your work, relationship with your family, whatever it happens to be. I'm feeling here that the Star card gives you the rocket fuel to be able to transport yourself out of this wounded space and into health, into healing, into a much more aligned and, I want to say, like, even partnership, even pairing. But it's something that you have to choose. And I feel like the catalyst that's going to come up for a lot of you, I feel, is an invitation to either move forward in a particular dynamic with somebody, like where you have an equal partnership. Another person says, hey, I've been feeling what you're feeling. We're off. Let's work together to get on again. Or the invitation is you keep seeing that there's resistance from the other party, or from the workspace, or from your family member, or you're noticing resistance between your ego self and your high self. And you say, okay, I don't want to be in this space of resistance anymore. I'm choosing to move forward. I'm choosing to move ahead, and I'm choosing to move ahead in such a way that I'm not interested in looking back or going back into this energy field or this space. I really want to close the door and start something new. That's that vision space. So I really do feel that the catalyst is going to show up in some interesting ways, but it's definitely connected to the root cause of the issue. So wherever you are finding challenge in your relationships, this is the indicator that this is the thing that needs to be shifted. This is the thing that needs to be addressed. Because without that, without awareness of that, and without making a definitive choice, and I don't see any gray areas here. What I see in a really big way is the choice to say, yes, we're moving forward together, or no, we're not. Yes, I'm staying in this job and I'm moving forward in this way, in this capacity, or no, I'm not getting what it is that I need and I'm moving on. And I feel like the catalysts, the Star says, you don't need to overanalyze. You don't need to overthink this. You simply need to choose which path. Here we have a little bit of the daylight is dawning. Here we have the nighttime. They're both pouring their hopes and dreams and visions into the same tributary that is going to, veer off. And that's what creates the path. So both paths, no matter which way you go, are going to continue to keep you in your feels. It's just a matter of which feels you want to feel. I don't know any other way to really say that or express that, but I definitely feel that there are going to be there's definitely going to be one major catalyst this month for each of you. And for some of you, there may be two really obvious events, obvious conversations, obvious moments where you go, yes, this is my time to choose. The universe is speaking to me right now. This is my time to choose which path. And I feel like, again, whatever path you choose, understand that path is now the path. There's no going back. There's no looking back. There's only forward momentum. And I feel that there's going to be healing in that process as well. Any lessons that haven't been learned as a result of this, we know cyclically they're going to come up again for you in a different dynamic, in a different time, in a different situation. I want to say to you, don't worry about that so much, because it'll come through when you're ready. But right now, feeling hurt, feeling stuck in all of this is not serving you. It's time to move forward. And that vision, that star card, is going to help you to get there. Deep root. What deep belief, wound, or soul contract is driving this transformation under the surface? Yeah, there's this. I want to say this just feels like war, like forced momentum, forced movement. I feel like just like a lot of pushy energy, a lot of not listening to boundaries, speeding forward, charging forward without thinking. This card very much is about blending of opposites, melding opposites to bend to your will. And we're seeing it here. We've got an owl on one side and a raven on the other side. Now, I don't know if owls and ravens in the real world get together or not, but for the sake of the analogy of the card, let's say that they don't. But somehow this, characterized figure here, pretty scary figure here, has roped both of them in, locked them into submission, not through niceties, through control and domination. And the birds are trying to get away. They're trying to get away from each other. They're trying to be able to fly free and to maybe even get away from this guy. But he's figured out a way to rein them in, to harness their energy to work for him. And so I feel like, I just keep feeling like a lot of this like warring energy. So the war within, the war without. I feel, Leo's, like you're tired of the war. This is why you are, injured. This is why these three swords are still, after all this time, stuck in your heart space. And I feel like it's okay to slowly remove those swords, remove them one at a time. You don't have to remove them all at once, but it is time to heal. And this Chariot card is it's like someone who's very overbearing, someone who is really dominating and forces an issue, just comes in and shifts things up and blah, 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 and does not give anyone a choice or does not give anyone an option. I feel like maybe there is some subconscious energy that is operating within you that is kind of driving you in this way, whether it's driving you to resolve this now, which really means you don't have enough time to really address the issue. You just have to kind of patch yourself up and, get back out in the field. That's kind of the energy of what this feels like. Or they're pushing you to move past it because they don't want you to see the reality of what has actually transpired. That there's more than meets the eye. But really, when I look at this, I feel like this is the challenge. challenge is, yeah, I'm going to make a definitive decision and a definitive choice. I'm going to close the door on the past, but that doesn't mean I have to blow through it. Now that I've made the choice, now I can take my time and really own that choice and dive into that choice. Like, I really want this choice to work. I want this to stick. So how do I make that work for me? It's really interesting because normally the Chariot is a card of victory, but I just keep feeling this, whether, like I said, whether it's the war within or the war without, the war needs to stop. And I feel like that's the subconscious trigger. So when you can identify who you're warring with, then you can remove yourself from that war. You can call a truce. You can put a stop to it. You can, jump to a different timeline, right? Spiritually speaking, you can move on. You don't have to keep perpetuating the blending of these opposites. Maybe opposites isn't good anymore. Maybe that's what you're getting rid of, is this idea that I always have to make it work with others who, don't share the same values. Maybe it's time to shift that up, to be more selective. This is what is dying away. What part of you is dying away right now? What role, pattern, or identity has run its course? How interesting. So we have the Chariot, and now we have the Knight of Swords. And I think this is, similar energy. He's charging into battle. He's the Knight of Swords doesn't really ask a lot of questions. The Knight of Swords is just happy to have a fight. More than happy to go in and to have a reason to get his aggression out or his anger out, or to be able to use his fancy words, to intimidate or whatever the case may be. In the basest version of this card, of this energy. And when we're talking about what is dying away, I feel that this is what's dying away within you guys, Leos, is you're kind of tired of the fight, right? You're giving up that, do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? You're stepping more into the space of, wow, I really do want to be happy. And so what does that mean? What are the things that I need to, well, the phrase I'm hearing is give up. But I also feel like it's not really giving up, like in terms of sacrifice, if it's getting you to where it is that you want to be. It's understanding that, oh, this is part of the gratitude. This is part of the secret recipe to get where it is that I'm going. So by no longer feeling like I've got to be in this warring energy or this warring space, or I've got to be right in every given circumstance, instead now you're saying, oh, to be right versus happy in this instance takes me further and further away from my ultimate goal, which is heart healing. So I'm grateful that this is falling away. It's not that I won't be able to protect myself. It's not that I won't have things to occupy my time and places to go and people to see. It just means that I'm releasing the intensity of it. I'm releasing the fight, right? The need to fight. And I'm not saying that all of you are like, warmongers. This is more of, again, we're tapping into the subconscious aspect of things. And we all have those, I want to say, like those recordings that play in the back of our mind all the time. Sometimes we're not even conscious of them. We're not even aware that that is what is actually making the decision for us. And when we become conscious of it, suddenly it's like, oh, I remember the first time I was reading the book, The Untethered Soul, by Michael A. Singer. This was many, many years ago when it was like the book to read. And of course, I was a couple of years behind that because that's just how I roll. And I recognized with something that he said, oh my God, that voice that I have thought has been mine in this particular circumstance has actually been my mother's voice. And when I kind of like sat in there and heard it for the first time, like listened to it, I heard it a billion times. When I heard it, listened to it for the first time, I recognized, wow, that particular voice is my mother's voice. And that's the voice that comes up every time I'm getting ready to make a decision in my life about this particular, thing, like my romantic relationships or whatever. And what an eye opener it was. Like, I mean, it was the biggest aha moment, because then I recognized, oh, what other voices have been, sort of playing in my mind that I've just been unconsciously listening to and following that aren't even my own. And that's kind of what I'm feeling is dying away for you. You're letting some of that go. So there expect some aha moments around what is driving you at the core. And those are some of the things that are going to be falling away. What is your highest phoenix potential? What can rise from the ashes? What is your soul calling you toward? This is your breakthrough energy. So, reaping of rewards, when we talk about that Seven of Coins energy, it really is representative of the harvest. And a lot of people will read this card. I think of Chris Minopont. He always makes me laugh. He always says, is the juice worth the squeeze? And yes, there's a definitely a component to this card that indicates that, just making sure that it's worth your time. But when we are looking at it from the perspective of harvest, I feel, Leos, like you are literally on the precipice of receiving the biggest harvest of your life. Like, all of the seeds that you have planted, all of the nurturing that you have done up to this point, like it's so close, it's right there. But if you are falling into this energy, this pushy energy, this drive, this gotta, what's going to happen is you're going to pluck these and pluck these flowers and pick the fruits before they're actually ripe. And I feel like there's a timing thing that's going on here in October for you guys, where, yeah, the harvest is in. And you can see that there's going to be something for you to take home with you, spend the time to be in gratitude for the abundance. But there's also still some work that needs to be done. And don't be in such a hurry to pick the fruit. Because if you pick it before it's really ready and really ripe, there's going to be some disappointment. It's not going to be, I want to say, as sweet or as full, or it's not going to serve all the purposes that you need it to serve. So I feel that there's a little bit of a timing here. And when we call this your highest phoenix potential for this month, and what your soul is calling you towards is recognizing and honoring that the harvest is in, and being excited about the harvest and making plans for how you are going to make the most of this harvest, make the most of the emotional fruition, the energetic fruition that is coming through. Have the plan. I always like to say, when the harvest starts to come in, you got to have a plan for how many baskets you need, and how much of the fruit you're going to keep for yourself, and how much you're going to give away, and how much you're going to sell. Do you have jars to can that fruit? Who is going to jar those cans of fruit? Like, it's a different form of the plan. So I feel like that's what October is about, is you're going to start to see that the harvest is coming in, but it's not quite ready yet for you to pick it. So take the time to plant those seeds. Not plant those seeds. Take the time to plan for how you're going to harvest the harvest, and be in gratitude for the fact that this is the stage and the phase that you're in, because it is a graduation of sorts. Yes, there's still going to be work, but right now it's okay to be in that anticipatory space. You might only have to wait another month, maybe 2 months, and then everything kind of opens up. The harvest is ready and off you go. But don't rush it. Don't allow this previous pattern to dictate how you're moving forward. Wow. Okay. So you're tired of doing the deep dive, but there still is some deep dive. It's just deep dive at a different level. And that's going to feel good, because at least you're out of this. It's like, no, I've outgrown this. I don't want to be here anymore. It just keeps me stuck. At least with this, I've got something I can sink my teeth into. What's emerging just around the corner for you? What energy or experience is coming in to support the next phase? Oh, I love this. Yes. Okay. So, I mean, I could not pick these cards better if I tried. So, temperance, it's that balance, it's the tolerance, it's the alignment with things. When you look at this card, there's nothing but peace. And temperance is the alchemy card. So, temperance does say you're taking two, disparate objects and you're combining them together to see what tool or resource it's going to create. So there is action involved in the temperance, but it is, I want to say it's like a slow and somewhat methodical, or maybe not, methodical. I would say methodical. If you think about like the scientific method, there's method to the rhythm, and the ritual that you're doing, but there's no expectation for the outcome. There's no expectation on the timing that this outcome starts to work for you and work on your behalf. And that's what I'm really feeling is this card coming up. This is what's emerging, is there's peace in the process. There's an opportunity for you to be involved in the process, to do the work, but to also not feel so rushed, to not always feel like you've got to be on or driving the bus, or pushing the boat, or pulling the Mack truck up behind you up the hill all by yourself, or being driven by someone else. The temperance says, get still, get quiet, listen to your inner voice and your inner guidance, and allow that to lead the way at this time. I like that. I love this stag that is in this card. He's white, and so any animal that is white symbolizes spirit, source energy that is here helping you and supporting you. He's giving you energy. This source is going to give you the energy for this. And some of you may struggle a little bit with this because you're used to boo 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 all the time. I feel like source energy is going to help you out with that, and not in a way, I mean, unless you need a universal frying pan to the head, then it will, maybe knock you on your ass with a cold or something like that, so that you have to be still and you can't do anything else. But for the most part, I feel like the majority of you, it's like source energy is kind of taken away all the rest of the noise so that you can be in this space and there's some ease to it. And you're going to have to adjust to it. And spoken like a true A type, like, I'm not judging you here, but I understand that feeling of not knowing how to calm down or wind down. Whenever I go on a vacation, my ex-husband used to get so frustrated because for him, like 7 days was perfectly fine. Even 5 days was fine. I'm like, I need 3 days before I even like realize that I'm on vacation, and that like my mind realizes that it's running on high octane and that it can slow down. So I always liked to do, 10 days or 12 days, make it count, because otherwise I'm feeling completely rushed. So, like, I get it. I understand. So you in this process right now, how are you navigating this transformation? Are you resisting, flowing, grieving, or boldly rising? So I want to say, I feel like once you make this choice, you're going to flow. And I feel like this page of coins, it's interesting because we had the 7 of coins and the page of coins here. Once you make that choice and you are in flow, I feel that you're going to be very curious about that. Again, I talked about like a methodical approach. Page of coins is very much that methodically curious. You are the person that sets up the scientific method experiment because you're curious about what you're going to learn about, whatever it is, without any expectation of the outcome. And I feel like the biggest thing for you guys this month is what you want to see and experience is a manifestation of all of those dreams, goals, and desires, a manifestation of the shift that you're choosing to make. You want this to be worth your while. And I feel like, again, the harvest has already come in. You're just kind of waiting for, the fruit to ripen. But, you now have the time to be able to figure out and plan how you're going to make the most of the harvest. Page of Coins is now saying, okay, let's experiment a little bit. Let's have a little fun with this. Now that we know that it's all here, how do we want to go about doing this? Because we don't necessarily have to do it in one specific way. As long as there's method to the madness, we can do this. So let's experiment a little bit and see what's going to work on our behalf. As long as you allow yourselves to be in flow and you listen to that flow rather than listening to this energy, everything's going to work out beautifully. You'll remain in flow, and I want to say eventually you'll rise. Don't be surprised if a few of you get caught up in the I'm in flow and now all of a sudden that voice is creeping up and suddenly I'm in resistance. Just kind of notice what happens as you're adjusting and adapting to this, because you may shift from flow to resistance a few times. Just don't beat yourself up. As soon as you see yourself in resistance, say, oh yeah, go back to gratitude. Gratitude for what I have. Gratitude for all there is. I don't need to control this. I don't need to drive this bus. I just need to be present with what is, and that's going to serve me best. Circles of support. Who or what is influencing your transformation right now? And is it in a positive way or maybe a negative way? Ooh, the High Priestess. I feel, Leos, like this is who you want to be. And I'm not saying like you aren't the High Priestess. I'm saying this is who you want to be this month. You want to be the High Priestess. So I want to say to you, what steps do you need to take in order to embrace and embody this energy? She's all about intuition. I always say the High Priestess is oracular wisdom. Well, what does that mean? She's the oracle. What's the difference between an oracle and a psychic? So when I'm wearing my psychic hat as Stacy, you and I can have a conversation. I'm receiving information. I'm conveying it. I'm the messenger. I'm conveying it, but I have the ability to shift up the words a little bit. I have the ability to deliver it in a way that I feel a person sitting across from me is going to be able to receive that. And in some cases, I have the ability to say, I feel that that is going to be very damaging or devastating. I'm not comfortable sharing that information. So there's a level of me in the psychic, right? The oracle is literally the conduit that receives whatever source energy or whatever being they are channeling at that moment, channeling at that moment has to say. And they are present, but slightly to the side. They are conveying the message, conveying the words with the same tonality, with the same languaging that the being that they're channeling is giving them. They're not judging the message. They're literally just repeating the message word for word, tone for tone. And then they're like, thank you so much. Next, moving on. So I feel like this is who you want to be this month. So what steps do you need to take to embrace being the oracle? Trusting that you as a vessel can hold that kind of energy and can express that. Now, I'm not saying everybody's got to hang the shingle on the door and be a channeler. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm saying that your angels and guides, your dream team, is going to be oracling through you. They're going to be passing on information. You want to be in a state of mind and a state of heart to be able to receive it in that oracular way. I feel like automatic writing is going to be a big one for you guys. And some of you, you're even going to just kind of like voice dictate things that come through. So you want to lean into this, but you also want to recognize when you're not prepared for this, because then it's going back into that place of temperance, right? Leaning into the stillness. How do I get into the stillness, the silence, the quiet? That's going to open you up. Oh my goodness, Leos, this is a long reading. Sorry. Okay, hopes and fears. What are you dreaming of becoming? And what scares you about actually doing it? The Emperor. Yeah. So like this is who you want to be this month. This is going to be your circles of support, receiving information and guidance from your guides that's going to help you. But who you need to be, kind of, I want to say, like on in the outside, in the outdoor world, you want to be in that divine masculine energy, but you don't want to be the cruel and calculating version of the emperor. You want to be the thoughtful, the confident. I don't need to ask anyone's permission to do what is best for me, but I also don't need to step on everybody in order to do it. And I feel like that's some of what's transpiring here, especially with the vulnerability of the heart. There's a tendency to go into more of a like an authoritarian kind of approach to things. Like, I'm not going to listen to you, because if I listen to you, I feel that my resolve may sway, and so I'm just going to tune you out. And so I guess the best way to say this is, the hope is that you stand in your birthright. And the fear is also that you stand in your birthright and you go to the extreme of cutting everyone and everything else out because you're trying to protect yourself. And I want to say, yes, that's very real. But now that you know, all you have to do is ask your guides to keep you on track, to say, guides, please don't let me get into that space and that energy of being unwilling to listen, shutting my heart off entirely, being closed to healthy interaction, healthy emotional exchange. Ask for help, and help will be given. Here is your highest and best outcome if you stay the course this month. Who will you be on the other side of this journey? And what is the result of embracing the full cycle of death and rebirth? The Hierophant, being your own guide, being confident in who you are as a person, and stepping into the knowledge, the ancient knowledge, the knowledge that you've accumulated even just over the last several years, that you can apply that you can move forward with that you're not leaning on old patterns, old traditions that just aren't serving you. They're serving the old way, but they're not really serving the new way. I feel like the Hierophant is really coming through to say, be your own guide. Trust in yourself to make different choices. And when in doubt, and you're looking at something and you're saying, I don't know what to do, when in doubt, make a choice to do anything other than what you've done in the past regarding that issue, so that you can try something new and different. It might be a little throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks, but at the end of the day, you're going to learn, and you're breaking out of those old patterns and cycles. The Hierophant wants to support you in this. The hero wants to see you feeling like you're standing on terra firma and feeling good about where you're going. The Hierophant doesn't know everything. I want to say the Hierophant is, knowledge of traditions and rituals, but not necessarily a wise one. Not always wise, sometimes wise, but not always wise. So you're working towards that wisdom. You're working towards embracing and embodying that wisdom, but you have the knowledge to get you on that path. And I feel like that's what October is bringing your way. All right, Leos, that is your transformational tarot for October. As always, if you need any kind of support or guidance, planning, whatever, feel free to book a session with me. It's what I do. I'm here to help you. Otherwise, lifting you up, sending you so much love and support. And until we see each other again for another segment of Black Feather Couture, Divining a VIP Life, take care. We will see you on the flip side, and transform well.